Donna is actually the longest-serving elected Green in the entire United States. And we're very, very proud of Donna's commitment to all the progressive issues. She has never wavered from being strong, and she's been an inspiration to us all, not only here in Berkeley and Alameda County, but all across the nation.
As a Green, I am just so proud of Donna and everything that she's done for the Green Party and for the City Council, and the kind of leader that she has turned out to be, that has really put the Green Party on the map in a positive way.
Not only has she done a great job as a City Council member for the City of Berkeley, but she's also a historic figure. I think that people will look back on her as the beginning of a change of politics in the United States. A slow change that's a long time coming.
How does a woman evolve in Berkeley, California to be interested in doing the kinds of things that I'm doing, which is community activism? And my interests have spanned over really since I was a child. Concern about the environment and concern about animals, concern about humanity, and wanting to live in a world that has art and beauty and respect for different civilizations. I have two brothers, Christopher and Robert, and we were very athletic growing up. We hiked and fished and played and helped my father build houses. And so I have fond memories of all the fun activities we used to do as children. My grandmother had come to Montana because she had become a very active member of the Communist Party when she was in Minnesota going to the university. And she started working for the People's Daily World, the newspaper edition of the Communist Party. So she became a farmer's wife, but always had this good education in mind behind her. She was one of the earliest women to graduate from the University of Minnesota. And my paternal grandmother grew up in Red Lodge, Montana, and Cody, Wyoming. She was from a farming family, and she was a horse racer, won prizes horse racing. My experiences on my grandparents' farm taught me a respect for animals. As soon as I could walk, I was exposed to dogs, cats, milk cows, chickens, geese, sheep, horses, and pigs. One of my fondest memories is of milking the cow with my grandfather, and he would squirt milk into my mouth from the cow's udder. It was warm and delicious.
She's always been self-motivated, and she's very independent and resourceful. She does things on her own, and I think she was born to be a politician because that's what really keeps her happy. She likes being on the Berkeley City Council, but she was in school. She was an excellent student, all A's.
After growing up in the West, being born in on the Canadian border in Montana, growing up in Montana and Colorado, and living briefly in Los Angeles in my teenage years, eventually I came to Berkeley, California to go to school at UC Berkeley. Berkeley was a very exciting place. The university, the various social movements. At that time, the war in Vietnam had moved to Cambodia, so there were protests taking place on campus. Tear gas was dropped after the bombing of Cambodia, and the campus exploded and tore down the university's development on People's Park for the first time. And that happened every time there was an incident, a major bombing incident. Whatever the university built was torn down again. So finally the university gave up building on People's Park, and we went into the 70s, and in Berkeley this was also the time, the birth of the disability rights movement, which was taking its inspiration from the civil rights movement, as was the women's movement, and the beginning in the 70s of the environmental movement. One of the first Earth Days was celebrated in San Francisco, and so that became a tradition in Berkeley. And so Berkeley's opposition to the war, its support for free speech, it became known as the place to have progressive ideas and try to get them implemented. In 1972, I began to develop joint symptoms of swelling in my joints, my knee joints. And this was a great surprise. I'd always been athletic as a child and a young adult, skiing and hiking and horseback riding and skydiving.
Well, even in grade school, she started skiing, and she was a top-notch skier. She skied all over Colorado and won a lot of prizes. And then she, skydiving. Yeah, well, she did many sports before she got disabled.
So then the symptoms persisted, and eventually I was diagnosed with having an immune disorder called rheumatoid arthritis. And it's in the family of collagen disorders, and so mine took place inside the joint lining, which made it rheumatoid arthritis. There are 100 different types of collagen disorders. So this was a really life-changing phenomenon. I had to spend a lot of my time trying to just get healthier, trying new diets, trying new therapies. In the end, nothing really stopped the advance of the disease, but if I ate well and tried to take care of myself, and especially the mental component and spiritual component were very important. Without those, it didn't matter what you did if you didn't have something that would calm your mind and help you deal. This happens to be a particularly painful disorder. So, I mean, I'm in pain all the time. It's just a question of degree. And I found by getting involved in activities that were of interest to me, like I studied art, I did ceramics and painting, and that was very therapeutic. And then also I was interested in helping animals, saving the environment.
When Donna learned that my cat Diva was dying in 1995, she wheeled herself over to my house, which was some distance from hers, to bring me a videotape of the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Diva had a good death, and I have always remembered Donna for bringing the tape to me and for supporting an animal and a human being in a time when we most need to be supported. I love Donna Spring, and I will remember her forever.
One of the things that Donna has enjoyed, I think, a lot is my sense of humor, and it's one of the things that's gotten us through many of the difficulties that we've faced. Is just keeping a certain lightheartedness and joie de vivre as we go. One time that Donna and I went on a little vacation, we went up to Calistoga just before her first major surgery, and we didn't know what was going to happen. There was a lot of kind of trepidation and anticipation, and it was the first joint replacement, and so we had a very nice time, and I came back and wrote a poem entitled Spa. With my companion, Donna Spring, I enjoyed a hot spring in Calistoga, California, below the magma-powered Maya Camas Mountains. After the thermal lounging of passive hydro-yoga, we dined upon rice, lentils, kale, and cauliflower at this pre-lava-form location somewhere in the Kali Yuga. And that was November 1987.
In 1986, my friend Michael Winter, who was the former director of the Center for Independent Living, decided to run for city council and asked me for my help. And I was so amazed. I said, "You're disabled." He's also in a wheelchair. "How can you run for city council being disabled? You've got to be able to go door to door." And he said, "Oh, I can always get someone to help me go door to door. I have friends." I was really amazed. So I watched him, have his friends come out, have him knock on doors, and he went door to door, and he ran a campaign, got volunteers, and did everything a normal candidate would do. So that was the first inkling that I ever had that someone like me could run for public office.
Donna's a real mentor for both me and my husband. She held office, was just seeking, and then became an elected official when I first became involved in the Green Party. And her courage, her vision, her integrity has always been inspiring, and she has encouraged a lot of us, including myself, to become more active in our Berkeley politics, that we're not just parts of this community, the city, as citizens and voting, but we can be players. And she has always been available to folks in her district and outside of her district when we had a concern about something that's on a very human scale, something that's happening at City Hall that was going to impact personal lives. Donna's always been there to listen, to understand, and to give really good advice.
I remember early on in my career on the Peace and Justice Commission in Berkeley, I got in the middle of a conflict about the Middle East and Israel and Palestinians, and I was getting called names, and I was getting calls at home late at night and everything else, and Donna called me up and she just said, "I want to find out how you're doing. Are you all right? And if you ever need someone to talk to, please just give me a call." And I just thought, there was no agenda, there was no lobbying, there was no, "Here's how I think you should be handling anything." There was just, I'm with you. And that to me encapsulates who Donna is.
One of the major triggers in me wanting to run for city council was an effort I was involved in trying to save a historic garden at the Sisters of Presentation between Addison and California. It was a convent that had been laid out in the late 1800s by a Catholic nun who came from Ireland to help the original settlers here educate their children and have religious education as well, and services. And so she and the farmer laid out a Victorian-style garden. But the convent went out of existence in this area in the late 80s. So the church sold the property and they sold it to the university. The university put a housing development there. But I went to the Regents and pleaded the case. The president of the UC did hesitate for a moment, and then with one fell swoop cleared the deal, and the Regents went along with him. And I thought, if I'm the only person from Berkeley that cares enough to be here from the city, then I should be on the city council.
Donna Spring is the very, very best city council person we have here in Berkeley. She's a champion for the people. She does not sell out to special interests. She does not compromise with the university or the developers or the landlords. She thinks first and foremost of ordinary working people, and she's the embodiment of what a real Democrat with a small d, a real purveyor of democracy should be.
This is quite a spectrum of people who love Donna. And we have representatives of trees and of creeks and of affordable housing and of neighborhoods and of students and pools. And if I left something out, but most animals. And one of the things that I think I said students, and one of the things that ties us all together is a belief in fair public process. So no matter what our issue, whether it's preserving our landmarks and our local heritage, or saving our creeks, or saving our trees, do it in public. And Donna is our one city council member who, this is a theme that goes through everything she does, is make it public, make it transparent. In the end, it may not matter what the vote is, but as long as the process has been clear and honest and people have spoken, then it's okay.
Hi, I'm Phil Price, and I am Donna Spring's representative on the Parks and Rec Commission. I'm also a good friend and supporter of hers for a long time. And I think my favorite thing about Donna is she's the least political politician I know, in the sense that, or to the extent that, I never worry, even a little bit, that Donna is going to cut some deal. I'll support your legislation if you support mine. She speaks and votes the way she thinks, the way she believes.
I'm happy to be here and I'm celebrating Donna's dramatic return to office by an overwhelming percentage. Thank you, Donna. And thank you to all of you, because none of us as elected officials can really get anything done without all the wonderful volunteers like you. Thank you.
I would like to introduce one of my main assistants, who's Bezu Wolnisko. She helps me attend all the council meetings, even when I attend them at home. She gets my papers out for me. She helps me find things. And so it's really wonderful having good people like her helping me.
My name is Mame. My nickname is Mame. My name is Vurek. I came from Ethiopia. I helped Donna 9 years. And she's my family. I love to help her.
I look forward to working with all of you and my colleagues on the council. I feel that we do important work together, which often means national headlines, but more importantly, we have a fantastic community.
When I think of Donna, I think of Asadanalo. That's thank you in Aramaic. And I've known Donna for a long time, and she's worked extremely hard to give a lot of people access to city government and services, and we're all grateful. Thank you.
She was a great advocate and really helped us learn the ropes of the city council, how they operated, the rules, the regulations, the ordinances to try and fight the development.
I have profound respect for her. She was an immense help to me when I was running for mayor. I still consult her a lot. I consulted her beforehand, and I continue to. I will hope I have an opportunity to consult her a lot in the future. Good for you, Donna. You're really a dear person, and the city really needs people like you, and there's nobody else like you, really, so you're indispensable.
She's been a mentor and very, very important, thoughtful, not afraid to critique when necessary, you know, and I think that's really important, especially for newer candidates and grassroots candidates who don't necessarily have the experience of running a full, real campaign.
Donna to me she's been my mentor, my supporter, my political ally, and more than anything else, she's been my friend over these many years. And I just want to thank Donna here for all the work that you, Donna, have done and will continue to do for us in Berkeley. Thank you.
Donna is one of the true leaders in a way. It shows how you can lead with your heart. It shows how you can lead with your intelligence. She doesn't play games. She tells things to people that she honestly believes are true, and she stands up for causes, even if they aren't as widely supported as they should be. Donna is there, giving it her all the time. She's just marvelous, and I thank her for everything she's done. Thank you, Donna. Happy birthday.
There are many progressive Democrats that I support. One of them is Dennis Kucinich, who I became active with to be the first city to co-sponsor his freeing space of space weapons. And so he came out here to Berkeley, and we presented a proclamation of appreciation for the work he's done to further peace on the planet. Maybe not that many people know that this U.S. government is involved in putting all manner of weapons out into our outer space area, which is creating a whole arms race. Berkeley adopted the proclamation or the resolution declaring that Berkeley was a nuclear-free space in the early 90s.
It's very meaningful for all of us that you continue to contribute in a very meaningful way to the important things that this city has to grapple with, and your leadership and your vision is always an important aspect of what the council considers. I wish they would consider a little bit more of it sometime. All right. Happy birthday.
Donna has been a real good fighter on some of the real important issues in Berkeley. And one of the things I remember her doing that really touched my heart was when the United States responded or overreacted to the September 11th invasion by going into Afghanistan and carpet bombing the place, despite the fact that, you know, they let bin Laden get away. And she called for an end of the bombing as soon as possible, which was hardly a radical thing, and she was lambasted in the Wall Street Journal, and the mayor of this town at the time put a lot of pressure on her, but she didn't back down. She stood firm, and it was the right thing to do. And here we are years later after the invasion of Iraq, and people are starting to realize that all that effort led to nothing. We didn't get bin Laden, but we killed a lot of innocent people, and Donna was ready to stand up for it early on before anybody else would speak, and I really respect her for that, and she's been a real asset to the city council.
I did a council resolution which passed with a bare majority that said, let's write a letter to our national leaders and send them this resolution which asked that they explore alternative ways of bringing those responsible for 9/11 to justice, that they pursue the World Court, that they work within the United Nations, and that we find a way within international law to address these issues, and that the U.S. not just take it upon itself to be judge and jury and executioner of who was responsible for the 9/11 events. This was immediately controversial. We were the only city in the country, the only elected body to take such a position.
Tonight, the city of Berkeley is once again in the national spotlight. In just 30 minutes, city leaders will decide whether to call for an end to the U.S. attacks on Afghanistan.
The fuel for the fire is City Councilmember Donna Spring. She wants a speedy end to the bombing in Afghanistan. She'd like the city to back that stand with official letters to members of Congress.
Doesn't there need to be voices in this country that can question whether the use of mass destruction in other countries is in our best interests?
Spring's aware of the controversy she stirred and also wants the letters to express grief at the attacks.
And so then I was, and the rest of the council, bombarded with hate emails, but a lot of very supportive, positive emails, especially in the California area. And then there was a wonderful peace rally that happened in Oakland. And so that was the beginning, the seeds of a new peace movement that was built in response to the bombing of Afghanistan, which then got diverted to Iraq.
Donna's also someone that has always fought for environmental issues, for parks, for anything that was connected to wildlife, to animal rights, across the board, not just locally, but she's always expressed and been a passionate advocate for animals in every situation.
Hello, my name is Donna Spring, and I want to share with you a recent visit I made to the Berkeley Animal Shelter in May of 1996. Most residents are unaware that Berkeley supports an animal shelter. Located on 2nd Street near University Avenue and the Aquatic Park, this West Berkeley facility has served the community since the 1920s. Each year, Berkeley Shelter is forced to kill more animals than it manages to place into adoption. Over 600 cats and dogs were put to death in 1995. A larger and more modern facility would allow the shelter to hold animals longer, which increases their chances of finding a home.
So in 2002, a bond measure was passed, a parcel tax, to raise money for a new animal shelter, $7.5 million. Unfortunately, because Berkeley is so landlocked, there's very little open space left in Berkeley or even old sites to be converted. We have not found a suitable location yet, and here it is 2007, 5 years after the voters approved the money, and we still have not located a suitable site to build a new animal shelter.
Hello, I'm Nancy Ober. Happy birthday, Donna. I was your appointee to the Humane Commission, and it was my pleasure to represent, in that sense, such a great champion of animals and the protection of animals in the city of Berkeley and beyond.
In the late 90s, as an effort to clean up conditions at the animal shelter, because there were many complaints about animals being needlessly killed and about conditions there that really weren't up to code. A task force was created. Mayor Dean, myself, and Councilmember Olds were on the task force along with 3 humane commissioners and animal advocates from the community. As an outgrowth of that process, I was able to get more money allocated for animal rescue, Home at Last, which now gets almost $50,000 a year from the city of Berkeley to rescue unwanted animals at the animal shelter and elsewhere in Berkeley and try to find homes for them, as well as funding for $10,000 for Fix Our Ferals, which goes around and has clinics so that people can capture in cages feral cats and their colonies throughout Berkeley, spay and neuter them, and then return them to the colony. As a result of these reforms, we saw the kill rate at the Berkeley Animal Shelter go way down. It became the lowest in the nation for a municipal animal shelter. So those were two of the reforms that I feel particularly good about in my tenure on the council.
She just has always been there, you know, for all the important things. For the earth, for the animals, for the people, for the plants, for biodiversity.
Turns out UC Berkeley is a major center on the West Coast for animal research, but it's done at all the UC campuses. On Davis, on UC Berkeley, UC San Francisco. It turns out we pump so much government money into animal research, much of it repetitive research. It's a real gravy train. So that was an eye-opener.
There's no question there is a great deal of animal research that goes on UC Berkeley. As many as 200 different faculty members working on as many as 500 different experiments. The animals range from the typical laboratory mouse to the very atypical striped hyena. Animal rights activists use videotape like this, shot at UCLA, as an example of the torture animals endure. UC Berkeley does use cats for similar vision studies, monkeys too.
After the UC got through building the new biotech building right by the eucalyptus grove, it came up with this idea to centralize its animal research in what it called the Northwest Animal Facility, which was right on the corner of Oxford and Hearst. So we began to protest that, and Polly helped start a UC campus group called Berkeley Faculty and Staff for Alternatives to Animal Research. We got some of the professors there, like Joe Nealons, to speak out against all of this, lots of it just frivolous use of animals, but way more than needed to occur, and poor conditions that the animals were kept in, and just really sloppy protocols. They were investigated and cited by the agricultural department, which has very almost non-existent standards anyway. There was a sit-in, really a stand-in on top of the crane that was building the new animal facility.
An animal rights protest is taking place right now, high above the UC Berkeley campus. Here's a live picture of the demonstration site. The demonstrators are trying to stop the university from building a new animal research lab on campus. They've climbed to the top of this construction crane to draw attention to their cause. Linda Schacht has more.
Berkeley's animal rights activists took their protest to new heights today, climbing a 150-foot construction crane on the UC campus, risking their lives to hang protest signs and vowing to stay there until their demands are met. We interviewed them from the roof of a nearby building.
We're prepared to spend a week up here. We have supplies for a week. Who are you? We're animal rights activists, and we're protesting the animal lab going here and the toxics lab.
Their principal demand is that the university stopped construction of a new animal research laboratory. Construction continued today, but with increased security. On the ground, supporters mingled with morning commuters and echoed the protesters' demands.
We should be spending this amount of money or more for a facility to do away with the use of animals. We'd get better science, cheaper, and certainly more humane.
The university's response so far has been straightforward.
The university is not going to stop construction on that project.
There was a lawsuit funded by In Defense of Animals and Polly Strand, who was a mentor to me. And we lost in the Superior Court at the county level, but appealed it to the State Court of Appeals and was successful. Polly Strand carried that lawsuit herself. And so that created a responsibility on the part of the university to better explain what they were doing with their old animal space, research space, because they had committed not to expand animal research with the Northwest Animal Facility. The university then decided they had to do better environmental impact reports as a result of that law case. That's the only lawsuit that has prevailed against the University of California, Berkeley on EIRs since. Since I myself have a disability and do use medications that have been tested on animals, I felt a responsibility to research whether or not this was really necessary to test these products on animals, because the thought of it was horrid to me that these defenseless creatures who could not talk would be given massive doses of toxic substances and just left to linger and die. There's something so contradictory about people wanting to relieve the suffering of people at such a horrid expense of suffering of animals. So I became very involved in trying to get people to understand that our own health advances, although they've been based on animals in the past, do not have to continue in that vein. I started an organization with the help of some friends. Polly Strand and Lindsay Vurek were very instrumental, called Disabled and Incurably Ill for Alternatives to Animal Research. And we went up against the Disabled for Cures for Animal Research in various media programs.
Live from San Francisco, it's Channel 5's People Are Talking with Ann Fraser and Ross McGowan.
I'm a spokesperson for a national organization of thousands of people who have illnesses and also physicians, and we're feeling that animal research is actually counterproductive and can be harmful. I myself was harmed by a drug that was tested in animals, and the drugs that have worked for me, like aspirin and penicillin, would have had disastrous effects if they were tested in animals. They wouldn't be available to keep me.
What was the drug that was disastrous to you?
It was Solandac, an anti-arthritic medication. And I also want to say, just because a drug is tested with animals doesn't mean that it has to be. 40% of the drugs that we have came from traditional remedies. Aspirin came from tree bark, quinine.
So you are absolutely against any animal research?
I would prefer that no animal have to be used and that we move toward more safe alternatives, not just for the animals, but for humans.
I think a lot of people would prefer that we don't. We'll take commercial break. Be right back.
Donna here has a comment, but before we go to that, Grace, you wanted to make a comment.
How about this one? I'd like to ask Dr. Spinelli, if there were, and it's possible, a species that is more intelligent than we are. Would it be okay if they used you for biomedical research?
Here today are people on both sides of this issue. Donna Spring believes that experimentation on animals is not only cruel, but also dangerous and cost ineffective to society. A sufferer of rheumatoid arthritis, she is the founder of DIRE, the Disabled and Incurably Ill for Alternatives to Animal Research. Dr. Neil Bernard does not believe any animals should be used for research at any time. He says that there are viable alternatives. He is founder and chairman of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.
I represent people who very much want to find solutions to their illness, but don't believe that our present illnesses are responding to animal research after we have poured in billions of dollars and billions of animal lives. And
would you disagree with what Jonna has said, that that there have been medical discoveries, medical miracles, in fact, due to the lives of animals? That there have been animals who have contributed to saving children like Lila?
There's no question that we have used animals and we have gained information off of them, but some of the information that we've gained off animals has actually put our medical treatments behind because of the differences in the physiologies between animals and humans. It's very difficult to extract information off of them. So we can't just say that all of these things were obtained with animals. And had we been using alternatives and developing a more encompassing look at other alternatives available, we might not have had to use animals.
You say the alternatives of what, doctor?
The alternatives to the use of animals?
Yes.
If you look at, say, the development of something like a pacemaker, it illustrates how these things come into being. It isn't that one does an experiment on a dog, putting in a pacemaker, and then tries it in a child. The history of the development of pacemakers goes back hundreds of years, and it involves human experimentation in a lot of very creative ways, probably much more than any animal experimentation. Moreover, most of the problems that limited pacemakers were not anything to do with animals at all, but rather electrical and engineering problems.
Dr. Marvin Pollard, former president of the American Cancer Society. We have relied too heavily on animal testing. What goes on in an animal may not necessarily be applicable to a human body.
There's a lot of controversy over animal research. One argument is that the research is needed to help advance medical treatment to help sick people. From that, you might think that all sick people would favor such research. Well, we're finding out that's not the case. With us today is Donna Spring, a disabled person who is working to stop such use of animals. Her group is called the Disabled and Incurably Ill for Alternatives to Animal Research. And also with us today is Wes Davis, who represents a group called the Incurably Ill for Animal Research. Would I be wrong in assuming that because the titles of the two groups are so similar that one was organized and the other was an answer to that, Donna?
It was in part. We felt, some of us who are disabled, who have illnesses, there are many in the animal rights movement, felt we wanted our own organization to put our viewpoint across. We did not want IFAR speaking for us and giving the public that the impression that all people with illnesses or disabilities are totally for animal research. There's a range of opinion. It varies.
Okay. If we stopped animal research as far as medical is concerned, and it's a whole other issue because they also test football helmets on animals and they also test cosmetics on animals. It's another whole issue which we'll get into. But using them for medical research, what do we do?
First of all, surgery is practiced in Great Britain without using animals, and they have very fine surgeons, some of the best in the world. Some people might not know, but the whole thing of using animals started because of religious prohibitions on cutting up cadavers. So that's how we sort of got into the cycle of using animals in the first place. We are putting all of our resources into animal research. What if we try to look at other avenues? Preventative health and education, try to change our lifestyles, eating a more healthful diet, getting the toxins out of our environment. We'd be so much better off than we are today.
In other words, directing the resources differently instead of concentrating on the animal research.
That is a great part of it. Most of the health problems that we have, like cancer and heart disease overwhelmingly can be corrected with a change in lifestyle.
My love of wildlife came from my early childhood experiences of the alpine Rocky Mountains. I remember meeting up with all kinds of wildlife, from deer, bears, and porcupines. Even before I'd ever heard the term environmentalist or tree hugger, I remember at age 13 taking a walk and deciding I wanted to hug the trees. I told the pine trees how much I loved them. The forest was my refuge and comforter.
I'm an environmental consultant. I live in Berkeley. I've done a lot of work with creek and watershed restoration and fisheries restoration. My husband is Phil Price, also a big environmental advocate, and both of us just love wildlife and love nature and feel really strongly about having nature in the city and protecting the nature that we have and restoring places where we've really made some mistakes in the past. And that's really how we got to know Donna. Donna was hands down our biggest creek advocate, our biggest wildlife advocate, our biggest animal advocate, and has continued to be so in every single issue that I've ever worked with her on. I think for my part, her care for the environment, which is the field I'm in, has been so essential for this city being able to do the things that it does and to stand by ecological restoration and protections, that's been a huge impact on me and how I do my own work, because I think she provides that inspiration so that you know that you can go out there and say what you really believe and stand up for that.
So we're here at an old oak grove. Some of these oaks have been here for a century or more, even before UC was constructed around them. And what's at issue here is that UC would like to level this old oak grove in order to build a gymnastic facility here. And the community has risen up and said, we want to save this precious oak, and it's got laurels and other trees here, redwoods. We think it's more important than a gymnastic facility, which could be located anywhere and does not have to wipe out this remnant oak grove, which we have very little left in the Bay Area, especially in urban areas. So there have been 3 to 4 tree sitters here tonight, and I helped sponsor a council resolution to request that the UC Regents not approve a project that would destroy these trees. We're also on an earthquake fault, the Hayward earthquake fault, which has a 30% chance of having a 7.0 earthquake or higher in the next 20 years. So there's 2 reasons, 2 very good environmental reasons why a gymnastic facility should not be constructed at this site. The council unanimously passed the resolution. The tree sitters have been up here since the beginning of December, I believe, the end of November. And we're building a movement and support to make sure that even if the bulldozers come, there'll be hundreds of community members that will throw their bodies in the line of the bulldozers, just like what happened at People's Park.
Hi, my name's Zachary Running Wolf. I'm a Native American leader, and I was a mayoral candidate. here I've spearheaded a tree sit in the oak grove that we're now sitting in, and basically with the help of Donna Spring, we're helping to save these trees. And so the city of Berkeley is coming forward with a lawsuit, and also Donna Spring's bringing forward a private lawsuit, so she's involved with 2 lawsuits, which we deeply appreciate.
My name is Kingman Lim. I'm a recent UC Berkeley graduate, 2005 in environmental sciences, and I've been involved with the tree sit here at the Oak Grove below Memorial Stadium since the first day, December 2nd, I believe, at the big game. I was helping out with the climbing and the setting up, and I'm kind of had it with the university, even the whole UC system, thinking that they can get away with the developing in communities when the communities are obviously against it. And I think it's time that people stood up for what they believe in, what they know is right.
I made calls and sent emails to the council members early on when I was organizing for this event, and the first response I got was from Donna Spring, and the response went something like this. Hi Doug, I got your message. I want you to know I will do anything you want to help save those trees. I'll write letters, I'll talk to people, I'll speak at any event, I'll chain myself to a tree, I'll do anything. That's Donna Spring.
UC should be leading the crusade as an institute of higher learning and so-called enlightenment to start reversing our behavior that is leading to such dire consequences. A lack of oxygen, global warming is directly linked to the destruction of forests throughout the world because they're not reproducing oxygen.
And this movement isn't just for the oak trees, it's for creating a different relationship between UC and the city of Berkeley, and it's time for that to happen.
Donna Spring has been an amazing community member, standing up for what's right, and in progressive politics.
I'm Carl. I'm chairman of Berkeley's for Livable University Environment. And of course, Donna is one of our strongest allies on the city council, and we just love her. I don't know what Berkeley would do without her. You know, she helps us, she supports us, and she really represents the whole city on the council, even though she's a district representative, but she does represent the whole city in the way she votes and the way she speaks on the city council. So we love you, Donna. Happy birthday.
I think what's amazing about her is that she has this ability and determination to speak up and speak out, no matter, even if it's the most unpopular thing to say what she's going to say. She'll say it, and then lo and behold, a month later, 2 months later, half a year later, a year later, everybody's saying, gee, what a good idea. Gee, maybe we really should do that. And she's not afraid to stand up for what really needs to be done in the city.
So one of the council resolutions I sponsored was to boycott any companies doing business in Nigeria, because Nigerian shell oil in particular was causing vast environmental damage to the Nigerian homeland and also treating the Nigerian people like slaves. So that was a successful boycott, which led to advances for human rights and the treatment of the Nigerian people and giving them some of their money back from all the oil that they were taking away from them. So there was also a boycott of companies doing business in Burma because of their human rights violations. I supported it, although I was not the prime sponsor of it.
So how will Berkeley get gas for its fleet of city vehicles? They're still researching the options and may buy from an independent. But not everyone is on board. Those committed to social justice stand firm.
I'm sure that that's what people probably said about apartheid when Berkeley became the first city to divest from South Africa. And look what happened 15 years later.
What is behind the big increases, or whom at the corner gas station, and what, if anything, can be done to bring those prices down or to save money? Those are some of the questions we will ask of Donna Spring. She is an environmentalist with the Green Party. She's with us from San Francisco. From our bureau in New York, Pam Fisher with the American Automobile Association, otherwise known as AAA of New Jersey. And from Washington, Denise Bodie, who is with the Independent Petroleum Association of America, and Leslie Horton with the American Trucking Association. We are delighted all four of you could be with us. That's what I hear, that the reason things are so extraordinarily high in California are the rules for clean air that state has decided to pass.
Well, we would expect the polluters to say that, but what some senators are contemplating here is putting on an excess profit tax to take away the sales tax and just tax the profits, which would be a good thing. And what we should do with these profits is start developing alternative technology, fuels, electric cars, solar-powered vehicles, promoting bicycle use. We've been subsidizing fossil fuel consumption, and now we're reaping the results of that. And it's had a devastating effect on our environment, on our health, and our future sustainability and our economics. If you look in terms of the environmental subsidy and the money that we're subsidizing with fossil fuels, the oil companies, and so forth, if we put that money into mass transit, we could deal with the issue of people not feeling it's realistic to be riding mass transit because it takes so long and it's so inconvenient.
Tell us, you're in a wheelchair and you use mass transit.
Yes, I do, and that the only long-term solution to our energy crisis is that we've got to get our policymakers, our government, investing in developing or renewable resources of energy, and we need to democratize the control.
I'm afraid we need to say goodbye because that clock ran out on us.
I think it was 1994, I was contacted by Lori Bouston of the Farm Sanctuary Movement because they were wanting to push the idea of a veggie burger at Burger King, one of the biggest hamburger chains in the country. And so she contacted me asking me to sponsor a resolution which requested that Burger King make a vegetarian option available.
America's #2 burger chain even got a letter from the city council.
In addition, many of our residents are aware of the environmental devastation caused by a meat-based diet.
Officials say Berkeley residents need a crunchy burger that's grown.
It would be like depriving Floridians of orange juice to not allow vegetarian burgers in California.
Vegetarians need fast food choices too, and we're hoping that Burger King sees that we'd like it our way at Burger King.
So we were successful. We got the resolution passed and got national media coverage. And Burger King created a vegetarian option. And after they created a vegetarian option, several years later, McDonald's joined them.
Hi Donna, this is Tammy with Area Vegetarians, and I wanted to thank you for being a voice for animals and for vegetarianism and just peace and compassion on the Berkeley City Council all these years and representing it in your personal life as well. Take care.
I've known Donna since 1998, and she was also my city council member for 7 years. And during that time, she has been a constant source of inspiration for me, both as an elected leader and as someone who is a tireless defender of animals. In April of 2007, Donna introduced a resolution condemning one of factory farming's worst abuses, the confinement of egg-laying hens inside tiny battery cages so restrictive the birds can't even spread their wings or walk.
On April 24th, 2007, I sponsored a resolution which unanimously passed the Berkeley City Council to oppose the eggs raised in what are called battery cages with hens crammed in. And I will be carrying future legislation which other council members are interested in co-sponsoring. The City of Berkeley will not purchase such eggs, and we'll be joining Andronico's, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and many universities including UC Berkeley, by banning the purchase of eggs produced in such conditions. They will have to be eggs produced in quote-unquote free-range chickens. And there's now state legislation to abolish not only these cages, which are so dreadfully cruel, but veal crates and pig gestation crates. These are all campaigns that the Humane Society has taken on in its focus on factory farming abuses, which kind of leads me to the future direction that I want to be going in and urging other people to go in, and that is to really look at the food they're consuming day to day. I don't think most people know how environmentally destructive animal products are to the environment. In these factory farms, there is the tremendous generation of methane gas. Apparently, livestock worldwide produce more methane gas than any other source, including automobiles. And there's all kinds of toxic runoff into the soil and water, and the use of fossil fuels to produce animal-based protein. We know we should not be driving fossil fuel-based transportation vehicles, but the connection still isn't there that you must reduce your consumption of animal meat products and byproducts. So that's the direction I want to take in my leadership, not only in the city of Berkeley, but also looking to making a difference nationally as well, because U.S. is one of the biggest consumers in the world of animal products. Of the issues that I worked on in terms of disability access to services is that I sponsored a ballot measure in 1998 for the Berkeley voters to pass a tax, to tax themselves, to pay for emergency services for the severely disabled and elderly. Which means if a disabled person or elderly person's usual caretaker cannot show up for any reason, there's a backup emergency care, half of which is paid for by the taxpayers of Berkeley. The other half is paid for by the disabled person accessing the service. In 2000, we also got a tax measure passed to create a rehab new warm water pool. Unfortunately, the school district has not cooperated with allowing us to retrofit the current pool as the bond measure called for. And now they want to destroy it without providing funding to replace it. So that's a big battle on our hands in the future.
I know her from carrying a lot of issues to City Council, and she has always been on the right side, morally and ethically, of every issue we've always brought there, and she's been a staunch supporter of every people's movement. So we love her.
Donna Spring was one of the first people I met who really embodied that spirit of being a public servant who was working tirelessly day and night for the good of the people in the community, not for the special interests or for the lobbyists, but for the people.
It's a pleasure to represent somebody who shares one's own feelings about the development of Berkeley in a neighborhood-friendly, citizen-friendly, human scale.
In terms of activism, I'm most proud